Pistorius has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for the murder of his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp. Judge Thokozile Masipa delivered judgment in the High Court in Pretoria a short while ago.
In the result, the sentence that I imposed on the accused for the murder dolus eventualis of the deceased, that is Reeva Steenkamp, is 6 years imprisonment.
Well, Judge Masipa says she considered all aspects before handing down her sentence.
I have considered the evidence in this matter, the submissions and argument by counsel, as well as the relevant case law and other authorities. Although a custodial sentence is the proper sentence, I am of the view that a long term of imprisonment will not serve justice in this matter. The accused has already served a sentence of 12 months imprisonment. He is a first offender, and considering the facts of this matter, he is not likely to re-offend. The sentence that I impose will have to reflect not only that fact, but also the seriousness of the offense. It will, insofar as it is possible, have to be fair to the accused as well as to the deceased family and society at large.
All right, well, let's cross now to the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. Our reporter Griselda Lewis is standing by for more on this. Griselda, very good afternoon to you. Judge Masipa strongly suggesting her sentencing was not based on public opinion of this case. Does the final sentence reflect that?
Well, that's right, Natasha, strongly suggesting there that she needed to take into account that this is a court of law, and that while she does need to take into account the court of public opinion, as many call it, she had to met out what she believed was just in this matter. She says that the mitigating factors far outweighed the aggravating factors in this matter. Of course, you'd recall when she was handing down sentence, she did indicate that she does not agree that Oscar Pistorius did not show remorse in this matter. She says, in fact, Oscar Pistorius did apologize for shooting and killing Reeva Steenkamp, and she does have to take into account the fact that Oscar Pistorius did reach out to Reeva Steenkamp's family on several occasions, and they refused to speak to him. Of course, you'd know that the Steenkamp family has long indicated that they're not ready to speak to Oscar Pistorius at this point. But certainly, Judge Thokozile Masipa believes that the sentence that she had meted out against Oscar Pistorius is just, taking into account. She also mentioned, you'd recall that during the mitigating and aggravating arguments just last month inside this court, Oscar Pistorius had taken off his prosthetic legs and walked on his stumps when the defense wanted to demonstrate to this court how vulnerable he could have been on that morning when he shot and killed Reeva Steenkamp. So Judge Thokozile Masipa, while handing down that sentence, indicating that even if he did not demonstrate that at all, we were looking at two Oscar Pistoriuses here. You'd recall Professor Jonathan Scholes, when he testified, he was one of the doctors that first examined Oscar Pistorius. He described Oscar Pistorius as a broken man and spoke of two Oscar Pistoriuses, one who had risen to global stardom and one who possibly could have been vulnerable on that morning when he believed that there was an intruder inside his home. So Judge Thokozile Masipa essentially saying that Oscar Pistorius on his stumps, even though there was a demonstration inside court, she believes in the sentence that she handed down that he was vulnerable on that morning when he shot and killed Reeva Steenkamp. So certainly it does seem that the mitigating factors that the defense had brought forward in the form of Professor Jonathan Scholes, as well as the demonstration certainly inside court that really had eyebrows raising, did strike a nerve with this court.
All right, and Griselda, we just saw pictures there of Oscar Pistorius leaving the court. We understand the defense will not be appealing the sentence. Is the saga finally closed for Oscar, at least as far as the courts go?
Well, I think everybody's scrambling for reaction from the National Prosecuting Authority at this point. Nobody has been available, but what we're hearing at this point, which is yet to be confirmed, Natasha, is that the National Prosecuting Authority is not ruling out the possibility of appealing this matter. Of course, you'd know that they've been pushing for a 15-year minimum sentence for murder, which, of course, Judge Thokozile Masipa, we now know, has deviated from. But there's been widespread reaction from outside the court. As the Steenkamp family was leaving the court, they refused to comment on the issue. They said perhaps they would do so at a later stage. But who did comment was the instructing attorney for Oscar Pistorius, Andrew Fawcett. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Respect the decision of Masipa, and we will not be lodging any applications for leave to appeal going forward. And Oscar will serve a sentence as handed down by Masipa.
Have you been given any indication from the state about whether they are going to appeal?
Nothing from the state as of yet.
Sorry, the state's just said that it can't rule out the possibility of an appeal. So how do you respond to that?
We'll let them make that decision. I'm sure they want to study the judgment, and we'll react to anything that they decide to proceed with.
And is Oscar...
I'm uncertain between half and 2/3 of a sentence before he can apply for parole.
How do you feel about the length of the sentence? Do you feel it's fair?
I think it's fair in the circumstances. That's all for now.
All right, Griselda, have we seen the expected avalanche of reaction, not only from
Natasha,
that?
of course. Well, that's right, Natasha. Of course, we're expecting the ANC Women's League as well to weigh in on the sentence that Judge Thokozile Masipa has handed down. You'd recall, of course, they'd been at this court since the very beginning, side by side with Reeva Steenkamp's family. While they are not commenting at this stage, the ANC Women's League has really labelled all of this as an insult and says that this is not in the interest of justice and that it's actually an insult for many women in South Africa who are abused. Let's listen to what the ANC Women's League's Jackie Mufokeng had to say.
It's an insult to women, and it's an insult to even to Reeva Steenkamp. I mean, we got 5 years with culpable homicide. We come back, we get an additional one for murder. What does it say to our society?
Well, as you have it there, of course, Natasha, all that reaction coming in. We're also expecting to hear from Reeva Steenkamp's other friends who were also inside a court. Essentially, while they're not willing to go on camera at this point, you could basically see the disappointment on their faces. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some more reaction in at the moment. But I think the focus is totally shifting to the Kgosi Mampuru prison at the moment. Of course, as you know, that Oscar Pistorius has already left this court. We will have rolling coverage from outside the Kgosi Mampuru prison here on SABC News. But of course, many of those saying that a just sentence has been handed down, and of course there are those who are quite disappointed at the sentence that has been meted out against Oscar Pistorius.
All right, Griselda, thank you very much. We'll leave it there. Our reporter Griselda Lewis, who's been covering the story right from its inception up to this point. Griselda Lewis live from the North Gauteng High Court, and as she said, we will bring you rolling coverage from outside the Kgosi Mampuru prison where Oscar Pistorius has arrived.